guys, this is episode 2 of Consumer Case Study, where I break down consumer apps and why they work. As an amateur runner myself, today we're doing a deep dive on Strava. So let's begin. Assume because a lot of cyclists use Strava, it was founded by hardcore cyclists. But our story actually begins with two sub-average ones, Mark Gainey and Michael Horvath. These two met as Harvard rowing teammates in the late 1980s, and what stuck with them after graduation wasn't the sport, but rather the team. As Horvath likes to put it, we hit upon the idea of the virtual locker room, a website where we could get the feeling of being on the crew team back. We missed our teammates and the daily motivation to excel. There was just one problem. They had this idea in the mid 1990s, which was just way too early. The tech wasn't there and the investors simply shot them down. But by the late 2000s, GPS computers were everywhere, smartphones were spreading, and social media normalized broadcasting your life. And so much like Belly with restaurant recs, the behavior existed, it was just scattered. Tools were weak as well. Trackers were data logs rather than communities, but Strava combined two things that nobody else did: native GPS data and a competitive segment leaderboard. Their earliest MVP actually just tracked a few riders across segments in Vermont and California, and athletes were allegedly calling in sick to work so they could ride their bikes and challenge the leaderboard. If you're not exercising with other people, tracking a run or a bike session is inherently lonely, but Strava's insight was making those numbers competitive without needing anyone else to be there at the same time. Their solution is something called a segment. This is a name stretch of road or trail, so anytime your GPS crosses it, Strava will drop your time onto a leaderboard for that exact stretch. The fastest man gets the king of the mountain, and the fastest woman gets the queen of the mountain. A single global leaderboard would be useless to almost everyone, right? Being 10,000th in the world just tells you how far you are from mattering, but a segment shrinks it to the people who've ridden it locally, and suddenly a rider who's average globally can have the fastest time on a climb on a mountain. And so this win becomes actually winnable for your average person. This is social comparison theory. We're gonna measure ourselves against similar other people rather than distant elites. I think what makes segment brilliant as a product though is that Strava, the app, doesn't make them, it's the users who do. Anyone can name a stretch of road and turn it into a leaderboard. And once you've made it public, it belongs to everyone on the app. This competitive map essentially builds itself. So riders, runners have created more than 35 million segments worldwide, and it's essentially a self-reinforcing cycle. At this point, you may be asking, how does a niche cycling app end up with almost 200 million users? The answer is a deliberately tiny target. Strava didn't try to win all of their athletes at once. Their strategy was go all in on one narrow group and nail that group specifically. And that group is mammals, middle-aged men in Lycra. These are your guys who are already dropping $300 on a Garmin, obsessing over ride data, and that community was already there because cyclists train in packs, and so every new user came with a friend group to actually recruit. One early growth hack that they used, Strava offered free race wheels to whoever posted the fastest 5K in 24 hours, and riders would end up recruiting their entire club to win that fastest 5K. While the phone app was only launched in 2011 and there was no dedicated GPS computer or anything like that, it grew exponentially, and by 2017 it was adding about 1 million members every 40 days. But like a lot of other social consumer apps, growth is only half the story. I think what brings people back to apps like these isn't necessarily a leaderboard or tracking their activities even, it's the kudos. Kudos is Strava's version of a like for a workout that you post. This feeds into the entire social loop. Post, your friends cheer for you, and that pulls you back to cheer for other people in turn. This is an easy answer. People pay for Strava. Strava runs a freemium model. That means it's free to download, but the good features sit behind a paywall. It's about $80 a year, and only a small slice of users actually pay. Most estimates will put it under 10%, but with 200 million users, even single digits is millions of subscribers, and subscriptions are roughly 90% of their revenue. Strava refuses to do ads, to sell your data, and for a company that's sitting on millions of data points, that's a lot of money left on the table. But of course, there are small side hustles. So there are like sponsored brand challenges from Lululemon and Chipotle, and Strava will sell some anonymized route data to city planners. But ultimately, this app is a subscription business and it's clearly working. Strava bootstrapped for 2 years and then raised bigger and bigger rounds. They raised 110 million in 2020 and 2.2 billion in 2025. Reportedly, it's profitable. It added a former Netflix and Spotify CFO to its board, and in early 2026, it confidentially filed to go public, which means IPO soon. As with all apps that are earning revenue, there's some tension to all of this. Free users will grow the community on the app, and paying users will grow the revenue, but those goals are inherently at war. As Horvath puts it, if you give away more, the community will grow, but the money gets harder. If you lock up more, growth of the app will stall. Every feature Strava ships going forward is kind of a bet on which side of the line that it belongs in. The first one is that the core mechanic can lead to people taking it to the extreme. I'll give an example. In 2010, a cyclist named Kim Flint lost a King of the Mountain ranking. When he went to reclaim it, he went down a hill way over the limit and he died hitting a car. That's a really extreme case, but because the leaderboard rewards the fastest time, people will find ways to cheat it constantly, whether it be logging car rides as bike rides, using e-bikes, faking their GPS, and so Strava has to police the features that drive its engagement. Number 2 is that privacy is baked into the DNA. Strava's whole premise when you share an activity that you did is sharing where you moved, which is dangerous at scale. To give an example, in 2018, Strava's global heat map accidentally revealed the layout of secret military bases because soldiers were locking runs on it. And in 2024, journalists showed that the same maps could track the security details guarding world leaders, including the presidents of the US and France. The sharing of the maps that makes Strava valuable is also leaking things that it really shouldn't be. If you made me a product manager at Strava right now, these are 3 product bets that I would make. Number 1 is modernizing the app. For a company worth a couple $1 billion, Strava's interface feels stuck a few years in the past. The feed is cluttered, following people is really clunky, and next to Instagram, it looks very dated. I would give it a real visual overhaul. So a modern design language like Apple's Liquid Glass, a feed that actually feels good to scroll, and a social layer that is as smooth as the tracking of the activities. The second product that I would make is to own the run club. There's a massive run club boom right now, not just because the dating scene is bad, but especially with Gen Z. People are literally meeting their partners at run clubs, and Strava is weirdly absent. I think the clubs all use Strava to log runs, but they organize on like Instagram and Partiful and whatnot. There's no real way to create an event or find a club or RSVP to a group run. Strava was founded to recreate the feeling of a team. So I would build the events layer that turns it from where you post after a run or a bike session to where you find your people before that activity even happens. The third bet I would make is to make AI a coach rather than a caption. So Strava's already starting to dip into AI, so workout summaries, some training app acquisitions, but I would go all in on a real adaptive coach. So something that like reads your history and your goals and tells you what to do in your next workout, growing the paying base by adding value instead of ripping features from free users. Ultimately, Strava didn't necessarily invent fitness tracking, but it turned a solo habit into something that makes you feel like part of a community. As someone who's logged more than 100 miles on the app, I can't wait to see what's in store. And that's all for today on Consumer Case Study. Let me know in the comments what you thought and what other consumer apps you might want to see on here, and I'll see you in episode 3.